phases. Are you ready? If I just want to check if you are online and comfortable. I have not seen, let me see. Simon, have you seen Anka?
If you are seen them yet.
If you are in the call, please make some sound. Please, if you can show your video and also unmute yourself. I have not seen your name actually. I'm going down the participant list. Otherwise, we may have to proceed to the third speaker.
Yes.
It looks like Anka Westhead is not in yet. Okay, so let me check if Mrs. Umut Zholdoshova, if you are comfortable, you are in the call. Mrs. Umut, great. Okay then. So let's proceed to the third in the program speaker, with the second speaker of today's session. Mrs. Umut Zholdoshova is a coordinator of Rural Development Fund in Kyrgyzstan, and her topic is on nursery raising for reforestation, beekeeping, and honey production. Over to you, Ms. Umut.
Hello.
Yes, your sound is good, and I see your screen. A bit of echo.
Just a second, please.
Sure, take your time.
Hello, dear participants of this summer school, dear organizers. I'm Umut Zholdoshova. I'm from Rural Development Fund. It's a Kyrgyzstan-based NGO. And also I involved as a country office director of the Central Asian Environmental Center in Central Asian Regional Environmental Center. Also, I involved in the International Land Coalition platform in Asian part on ecosystem on ecosystem platform, and I would like to thank the organizers, the participants for giving me this opportunity to talk with you, to share some experience on livelihood sources. So I would like to say that these mountains are very special for me because I'm a mountain person, which means I was born and I made my first step in the high altitude mountains in Kyrgyzstan, and I was I spent most of my life in mountains, and this is very special for me. And once again, thank you very much for inviting me. So today I will talk you about nursery raising for reforestation and also beekeeping and honey production as a livelihood source for mountain people. So my presentation is divided in two parts. In the first part, I will talk about ecosystems in general and the tree nurseries as a supporting local livelihood source. And I will show some examples of tree nurseries in Kyrgyzstan. And in the second part, I will talk about beekeeping and its role for ecosystem health and the local livelihoods. And also I will share with you some experience of our organization doing in this part, in this direction. So what is a mountain ecosystem? So already within these days, our colleagues explaining the importance of this mountain ecosystem for people, for the environment. And also I would like to say that the mountain ecosystem is an interacting system of biological community, and they are non-living surroundings in the region, in the mountain regions. And I wouldn't stop much on this slide. So as a previous speaker said that sustainability of livelihood is possible when the livelihood can cope with and recover from the shocks and the stresses and maintain or enhance in capabilities assets. Here also I would like to just to remind you that there is a very great framework for sustainable livelihood, and it's kind of I really like this diagram because it shows the complexity of this livelihood and its sustainability. In order to increase the sustainability of mountain livelihoods, people usually try to diversify their livelihoods, which means to find new ways to raise incomes and reduce vulnerability to different livelihood shocks. And livelihood diversification can be done by production of multiple crops of high value crops, or undertaking some small enterprises, or choosing non-agricultural sources of livelihoods. And here I would talk about two examples of livelihood diversification. First is the tree nursery and the beekeeping and the honey production. So tree nurseries also can serve as a livelihood option for mountain rural people. So what is a tree nursery? A tree nursery is a managed site designed to produce tree seedlings grown under favorable conditions until they are ready for planting. And the tree nurseries aims to produce sufficient quantities of high quality seedlings to satisfy the need of seedling users for artificial tree plantation, and to get plants on the right size and the right time, to get such plants in a good health and in a good quality and in a desirable number. So running a tree nursery is relatively low cost, and it requires relatively low skills, and it is sort of easy to implement, and also it can be profitable for rural households. And the tree nurseries, there are numerous classifications of nurseries. So tree nurseries can be big as well as small nurseries, which is less than 3 hectares, and the medium ones and the large ones. On the basis of planting stock, tree nursery divided for bare root nursery, where plants grow directly in the nursery soil, and the container nursery, which means the plants are grown in the roots in a container. And depending on ownership, tree nurseries can be industrial nurseries, institutional nurseries, project nurseries, community nurseries, and of course the individual household nurseries. And the nurseries can be launched and maintained for some shorter terms, such as up to 3 or 5 years, which is called temporary nursery. And also it can be established permanent nursery. So a permanent nursery is established for supplying planting materials for a longer term. And they provide, they have many advantages, such as they provide good quality planting materials, but also it has many disadvantages, such as it requires high capital cost, transport costs, and etc. Also, and this is a picture taken from the tree nursery in Kyrgyzstan. It is a permanent nursery growing fruit trees. And also temporary nurseries usually established near the plantation sites for a short period of time, and for lowering transportation costs. After planting materials grown, the temporary nurseries can be abandoned. So usually forestry enterprises, they set this kind of temporary nursery next to the big, large plantation areas. So as I said, tree nurseries' main objective is to supply with plantation materials. And in order to produce seedlings, there are several vegetation regeneration methods used. For instance, so this is a list of vegetative methods of propagation of these planting materials. And this is the first method is propagation by seed. For this, first the +3 should be selected. +3 means is a productive, is the most productive and a high quality tree. And then this from this +3, the seeds should be collected, and this seed should be dried and prepared for propagation. And there are special techniques for seed propagation, and I think we can omit that part. This is kind of it requires some. It takes longer time, and there are special techniques to be followed. And this picture, this picture I took in community-owned tree nursery from Kerala, from India. Here you can see small seedling materials propagated from seed and shadowed from the sunlight. And but the most common propagation method in Kyrgyzstan is a propagation by vegetative means. So there are many types of this one of them is cuttings. There are many ways to do that. So first is cutting. We take cuttings like 18 or 50, 25 centimeter long, thick, having at least 4 buds, and directly planted in the field in a well-worked soil. So keeping 1 bud above the soil. So in these schemes, you can see how they can be planted. Another propagation method is root shoot cuttings. We can take the 1-year nursery plants, keeping 25 centimeter long root and 3 centimeters of shoot. So this in a scheme, you also can see how it can be done. In a scheme, you can see also how it can be done. So this is another propagation method. This photo also shows how the ways of getting these root shoots as well. And there is another way of propagation by sets. It's 1-year-old cutback plant without root, or a long stem cutting with consists of 1-year growth. This picture also shows the newly planted sets. It's also in the nursery in Kyrgyzstan, and this is also the same, and the same methods use it. And but the most popular is for the lately, due to this climatic unusual this kind of weather patterns. It's most this method is becoming more popular. This is a back plants using the polyethylene bags for growing the new seedlings. So important step in launching and maintaining tree nursery is field preparation. In field preparation, one should give attention to selecting a site. The place should be selected correctly, depending on the soil types and the slope, and also there should be the runoff water available. Irrigation system should be available. In this picture, I would like to show a picture which is taken from the tree nursery in Kyrgyzstan, where tree nursery people were preparing the bags. So in this scheme, so the soil should be very well prepared, and the soil should be put in the polyethylene bags with the holes underneath, and then a seed should be planted. And after that, this container should be placed on the rows, in the rows, or like in this picture. So after propagating small seedlings, it's necessary to maintain the tree nursery properly. And one of the important activities in the nursery is weeding, which means removing undesirable grasses and weeds. And this picture shows how the staff of this tree nursery are getting rid of these weeds. This is a clean clean seedlings. And after propagating a small, and also the solid cultivation of softening, mulching are also vital for maintaining the tree nursery properly. And the small seedlings are very vulnerable to hot weather and the direct sunlight. So therefore, shadowing also should be undertaken. This also shows that tree nursery staff made of this kind of shelters, and they make the seedlings shadow it from the sunlight. And this also the some picture from some other tree nurseries. So after you launch the tree nursery and the propagated and the produced planting materials, you need to sell them and get money. To have here, evaluation of planting materials quality is very important step. After that, transportation to the markets or delivering to buyers is also there another issue. And usually after harvesting, some planting materials should be stored for a certain period of time. So in this term, storing planting materials is also requires some attention. So the produced planting materials, seedlings can be planted on the backyard, fruit gardens, in household gardens. Also, they can be planted as fruit orchards. Planting materials from tree nurseries can be planted in fast-growing plantations, which is another source for livelihood. And this picture I took from the community-owned fast-growing tree plantation made of poplar trees. And this plantation of a Pavlonia tree, which is owned by by an individual entrepreneur in Kyrgyzstan. Also, this is a picture taken from Balıkçı region in Kyrgyzstan. This region is a very dry, semi-arid place, and the water is very scarce, and the land not good. Its land is very stony. And 2-3 years ago, when I have been working in the World Bank project, we launched, we supported this local community to bring the irrigation channel to this place, and the community by themselves, they planted this fruit orchards, the apricot orchard in this dry area, and now they are doing very well. So we would like to say that people they get the additional income source, and also it's very good for the environment. So it's kind of a win-win situation. So if the things are managed well, so the tree nurseries and the tree plantations are very good option for livelihoods. And this picture I took, the right one I took from another forestry enterprise. There is a pistachio forest over there, and due to the not illegal, but overgrazing, the natural generation was not good. So what we have done, we supported local communities and the forestry enterprises to establish tree nurseries, and they grew the small seedlings of the pistachio, which can be planted for reforestation purposes. And this picture shows that reforestation should be taken place in those areas where the grazing common, and where the natural regeneration process is low. So this picture is taken from our colleagues. Here people are planting seedling material on the forest slope, or no, mountain slope. As you witnessed, tree nurseries can be a good asset for sustainable livelihoods, and later I will give you the link for the very good literature where the researcher Mr. Islam very well published an article where he explains how the tree nurseries can contribute to sustaining their livelihoods. And adapting from his article, I would like to say that tree nurseries can serve as a natural capital because they contribute to biomass production, groundwater recharge, carbon sequestration, climate change mitigation, biodiversity conservation, and the pollution reduction. Also, the tree nurseries can serve as a social capital because it can create jobs and enhance communication. And also, the tree nurseries can play a role as a physical capital because when you manage the tree nurseries, you need to invest in the road and transport. So also that's market facilities, housing, and the financial capital. The tree nurseries financial capital from the tree nurseries include family income, employment status, livestock possession, supplementary income, and even the waste from the tree nursery can be used as a fuel as an energy to secure the energy demand of the households. And therefore, also tree nurseries can play a role as a human capital because it can create recreation opportunities, preservation of values, benefits. So tree nurseries is very tree nursery entrepreneurship is beneficial for mountain people to promote their welfare and reduce vulnerabilities and sustaining livelihoods. So this this is the first part of my presentation. Now we can go. So here there is a list of reading materials for your further reading. So many of these articles are available on internet. You can find easily. And also here I show you the publication made from RDF from me. So it's in Kyrgyz language, but it's also it's called Bizdentokoy, our forest. It is mostly on tree nursery, how to establish tree nursery and how to make these plantations and addressed for the communities. Now let's talk about beekeeping and honey production for sustaining mountain livelihoods. Beekeeping is a profitable and environmentally friendly entrepreneurship. Beekeeping as an entrepreneurship provides people with various products such as honey, bee wax, pollen, which are very useful for human health. And beekeeping is a profitable activity. It can give income. Beekeeping is a gender inclusive because both men and women can do this business. And it is also a flexible activity where there is no need to constant tendering, for example, as with livestock or crops. So hence allows women to follow their matters on farm as well. Bees provide numerous benefits to the natural environment and have a crucial role in its sustainability. For instance, a colony with 25,000 forager bees is able to pollinate 250 million flowers. And the bees are an indicator of an environmental well-being. So the bees are the how to say, they're big. The biggest role is pollination. Pollination is a part of the reproduction of the flowering plants, and it involves the transfer of pollen from one to another flower. And this process begins seed production and the flowering plants. So it seems that it's we can say that pollination is as a source of all this, how to say, vegetation life. So this is some illustration how the pollination process is taken place, produced by RDF. So I will stop in this. So then some bees. So there are many types of bee species, and the most don't live in colonies. But Apis mellifera is one of the honey producing bees, and it's very popular among the beekeepers. And there is a picture of the queen and the worker bees, and there are the drones. And this is a scenery, the usual scenery in Kyrgyzstan. It's a mountainous country, as I said, and it also there are many beekeepers with their movable beehives. So in order to launch this beekeeping entrepreneurship, the most important factor is choosing a beekeeping site. So this site should be the plant of flowering plants and the trees in the area, and there shouldn't be no serious environmental problems nearby. Also, for instance, pesticides, and also the important one is the source of water should be there, and it should be sheltered from the wind and from strong sunlight. And bees live in beehives. And the purpose of this purpose of a hive is to encourage the bees to build their nest in such a way that it is easy to manage and maintain them. A hive should serve as a safe place and be large enough for the whole colony and its stories, and it should protect from unfavorable weather and predators. And there are two types of beehives: fixed comb hive made of clay, well, and also movable comb hives, usually made of wood. So in Kyrgyzstan, all beekeepers use movable wooden hives, and they move around. So this picture shows the track with the wooden beehives. Beekeeping, as I said, beekeeping is relatively low-cost entrepreneurship. However, it also requires some investment. For instance, the person should buy some equipment, and the major equipment are, of course, beehives and the processing equipment like honey extractor or separator, tables, and if it's needed, processing building. And also it's very important to get the protective clothing, smoker, trays, and other tools. So in this slide, you can see the, for instance, here, the person wearing the protective clothing, and the beehive with the tables, and in the middle, there is a separator. And in this picture, you can see that the beekeeper, how beekeeper are taking these tables and putting on the separator. The separator helps to extract honey from this. So after honey is separated, so it should be filtered and packaged properly, and in clean proper bottles or cans, and they should be labeled. In this picture, you see that this on the left side, the lady from the company are doing labeling by hand, and in the right side, homemade, household made honey in the market. And in this picture also, the ladies are selling their homemade honey in markets. In honey production, it is important to meet the standards as a food meal honey also has need to meet required standards. And in Codex Alimentarius standard, there is a Codex Alimentarius standard, international standard for food products, and it provides standards to honey and to other beekeeping products. And it defines norms for honey consumption, honey composition, quality, the requirements against contaminants. So honey should be free of contaminants, free of antibiotics, etc., etc. It should be, it should have a certain percentage of moisture, fructose, and etc., etc. So beekeeping, as I said, beekeeping is relatively easy, but also there are a lot of challenges, a lot of issues in this process. And the first and the most important, biggest issue is the parasites and the diseases. Lately, many beekeepers are complaining that the diseases are occurring so often. They don't know how to deal with them, and they use the antibiotics, but using antibiotics is not good for meat honey quality. And another another challenge can be supply chain and the market linkage. So, and also the packaging. And the most another big challenge in Kyrgyzstan, it was lack of support and the contradictions in policy. Here I can tell you that in Kyrgyzstan, several years ago, in Kyrgyzstan, our beekeepers faced conflict with livestock owners and pasture users, because livestock owners didn't understand the value of pollination, value of bees for their lands. So they demand the beekeepers to pay them some rent fee, and it was kind of ridiculous. They just didn't understand, and they just demanded this rent fee. But there were many processes, many stakeholders were involved. We made an informational campaign, and we invited international experts. We helped the pasture users and the beekeepers to find a common understanding. And finally, the people are getting more aware of the environmental benefit of beekeeping and the bees. So here RDF, together with our partners, Bees for Development, implemented a project called Equitable Access to Pasture Use for Beekeepers in Kyrgyz Republic. It was supported by the Darwin Initiative. And in the frame of this project, we conducted research on beekeeping. We worked a lot on increasing awareness, building community dialogues, and also we supported young beekeepers and the shepherds to launch their small beekeeping. Also we helped them, to make amendments to the. Hello. So there is a further reading on beekeeping. I think the time is out. So I think my presentation was useful for you. This is a picture taken from my kids in the tree nursery, on container tree nursery. Thank you for your attention.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Umut Zholdoshova. And now we do have Dr. Anka Weisheit with us.
Hello.
So from Kyrgyzstan,